LinkedIn Live. I am Morgan Doyle with the marketing team here at Marketing Eye, along with Robert Fox from Strategy to Revenue. We talked to you a couple weeks ago about the sales enablement and really aligning our marketing and sales teams.
Right.
So we want to dive deeper into that subject and more so on the recruiting of potential candidates, and then what happens once we onboard them. How do we ensure their success when they become a part of our team? So diving into statistics that are alarming. It takes an average of 27 working days to acquire a new employee.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's major, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important to bring the recruiting, so they're actually attracting your prospects, and then an onboarding program to make sure they get on board quickly and they're happy and they're content so that they stay there, because 27 days, if that's 27 business days, you're looking at 2 months of non-productivity as well as the costs incurred
Right.
for the time that you're putting into attracting new talent.
Right, and that can be shortened maybe if you have an internal recruiter and you
Yeah.
have the benefit of that headcount, but many companies don't have that resource, or they're using external resources. So what can we do to kind of amplify this recruiting process and make sure that we're efficient in our strategies? So one of the ways we can do that is fairs, job fairs, from professional networking organizations that provide those job fairs, as well as getting involved with universities and college campuses. You know, are we reaching out to the undergrad as well as the experienced professional?
Yeah, and attracting them, right? So if you're doing a job fair, what does your table look like? It's not just just having a bare table. That's the first impression that person potentially would have of your company.
Right.
So making sure that they're going to get we're putting together videos or takeaways or something that's going to really excite them and attract them
Right.
to your organization.
Well, and it's a two-part piece, right? Because at a job fair, you have multiple competitors that are all
Absolutely.
recruiting for the
Right.
same target audience. So is your table or your presentation attractive enough to get people there? And then do you have the right resources and takeaways so that when they go home or they go back to class and they have a piece of your logo, are they referring back to you thinking, okay, I liked my engagement with these people, with their team, but also, okay, this is a gadget or a piece of material that I will follow up with and remember what this looks like.
Yeah, so how do you stay on their mind?
Right. Another referral, once you get them engaged initially with the brand, say from the initial reach out, people are going to your website. So what does your website look like, and what does that offer your candidates or potential candidates, as well as current employees? Are you providing a career page? It's important to have the personality of the company, the more of who we are instead of just what we offer.
Right. You see people have like community pages too about what they're doing for the
philanthropic
neighborhood,
engagements.
right? So getting people to understand the full picture of your organization, not just sort of the business component of it as well.
Right, and culture is such a hot topic right now in companies. And so what does it actually look like? These younger generations, millennials and Generation Z, they want that full transparency. It doesn't have to be fun all the time, but what are you offering and what are you showcasing well that you provide for your employees? So are you acknowledging awards that you receive as a company, because that still affects your employee retainment and engagement? Are you posting photos of team outings and celebrating when the team does well?
Right. Posting when somebody gets promoted or things like that, moves into a different position.
Right. And then full transparency of what jobs are being offered on your website.
Yeah.
With that, moving into the digital platform, social media. An average of 81% of organizations are using social media as a recruiting tool, and then with that, 59% of job seekers are using social media monthly on their job search attempts and efforts.
Yeah. Okay. So are you saying that both have to be conscious of what's on their page? So the candidate and the potential employer have to both be conscious about their page or their social media presence.
Absolutely. And so much of this, I know we keep pushing digital, but really, as we're getting this new workforce and this younger generation, they want that modern look to transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what does it look like inside the company, inside the walls of your building? Yes, I know what you offer. I know maybe what the career path might look like. I might know what you guys are like in the community, but what does it look like inside the walls? And that's where that big piece of employee engagement comes in, because it can't just be relied on the recruiter and the marketer to sell the brand. It has to be the employees and other departments as well.
So almost it's like everybody has a role. Everybody in the company has a role for recruiting on their social media, their conversations about the company, their communication around the culture, all that. Okay.
Well, and I think part of it too is we can't expect all the different departments and employees on their personal pages to necessarily be proactively selling our company and being our brand advocates. But if we have that culture, hopefully they'll be more excited to share that on their personal platforms. But specifically, I want to cater towards LinkedIn, the professional network. As candidates are looking at the company page, they're looking at who else works at the company. They're looking if they're posting about the company and what they're doing in their job. And if we can provide those other employees of our company the tools and resources along with the directions on how to use that information, then that sets us up as having a brand cohesive look to the candidate.
Yeah, make it easy for them to actually communicate, right? So create content that they like, that they want to repost or whatever. Yeah.
Well, and with the directions specifically in that. So send an email out to your team saying, here's an infographic about this award that we won. Share it on your personal LinkedIn page. We'll post it in our company page. Just hit the reshare button. And make it as seamless and easy as possible. And that is a little bit more of the recruitment marketing heavy piece. But having it easily accessible to your employees, they're more likely to use it if you just give them the resources.
I think it's interesting because you hear about companies not wanting their employees to spend time on their sort of personal site. But if you control it and really set the expectation, I think you got a better chance of getting the right message out.
Right. Well, and two, you're not expecting them to waste time on creating new pieces and new content and coming up with it themselves. As a brand control piece, as a marketer or a recruiter, you're giving them the information and saying, post this. It takes half a second to repost or reshare, which is really important by giving them the resources and having them more likely post it. Another piece of this in the digital space is reviews. All reviews are beneficial to your company, whether they're good or bad. With good reviews, are you enhancing what you are already doing well? You have employees or potential customers that are giving you good reviews on different platforms. Are you, appreciating their comments, and are you enhancing where you do well? But also where it comes in negative feedback, that's still okay because you can reform and you can improve that section of your business. And being able to have these digital platforms to comment on negative remarks gives you the ability to say, hey, we are working on this. This is something that we've noted and we've improved in this area.
I think that's huge. I think that shows such a good policy in that it shows that you're reading the reviews for one, and two, that you're taking responsibility for something and doing something about it.
Well, and what's interesting about this piece, and I've spoken to multiple business people who have had this happen to them, but a general statistic that suggests that 91% of business owners say that their candidate process affects consumer purchasing. Meaning, in other terms, consumers are going to the review pages of their partners or providers and seeing employees or whatever comment, and what happens there might affect them purchasing their services or products, which is something that probably we didn't think about. We think of candidates and employees separate from customers, but really customers are reviewing and seeing how are you treating your employees? How is your culture as a company? Do people like working there? Is the tenure long? There's different variables that are looking, but making sure that, again, positive and negative feedback is all beneficial to a company because it helps you become a better employer and service provider. Another piece of bringing on new team members is offerings. It's not all about salary. While that is a big contender, everybody knows that we have bills to pay, but there's other pieces that companies can offer as far as benefits go that aren't necessarily number oriented. So one, educating potential candidates that are maybe viewing this right now and educating the employer of where the flexibility can come in. So is that working remote? That is a huge hot topic right now for small and medium-sized businesses as well as big corporations. There's some positions that are strictly remote and don't need to report to an office, while other employers may look at flexibility of working from home once a month or so. So offering that, are there growth opportunities for professional and personal growth? People are looking to come into your company and develop.
So think about a student just coming in, So they're willing to maybe take a lower salary if there's a way of getting advancement more quickly or learning a new skill more quickly, so that they can leverage that whether they go to another job or whether they go to something within the company.
Right. Well, and that can take different shapes and forms. So they can come in and have growth. There might be a ladder, a clear career path that they know the goals they want to reach, or they have outside resources that they can take additional courses, whether in trainings, or they can attend conferences and get more development, or they can have a mentor. An internal, and this comes, I believe, in sales pretty heavily, is mentorships. Do they come in and have an understudy of, okay, I can go to this person and look at career advice. They have tenure. They are well established in their career, and they can give me
for
guidance.
Any onboarding program that we recommended and done. Mentoring and coaching is a critical part of that. Critical, because someone needs to know that someone has their back.
Right.
And there's a place to go to get answers.
Well, and I think kind of moving into more of the onboarding now that we've talked about a high-level recruiting, you said in the previous conversation that we had, onboarding is not an orientation. It's not an event.
No.
It's a journey. It's a long-term thing, sustaining success and developing success along the way. So what does that onboarding process look like?
It's a good point, because there's a lot of people, when you ask them, do you have an onboarding program? They're like, oh yes, and they consider an orientation an onboarding program. And orientation is kind of like that first week where you learn, the HR sites, you learn maybe, any tools that you have. I mean, I had one company that I worked for at one point that they had a dry cleaner access, and they were concerned that they wanted to make sure you knew that the plastic was clear when you got so whatever you gave to the dry cleaner hung on the side of your cubicle, and people could see it, so they were concerned that your delicates could be exposed. But so the orientation is history of the company, a little bit about your role. It's just kind of getting somebody set up, getting them a computer, getting their desk set up, right? That's orientation. Onboarding is a 30, 60, 90, even longer route that someone needs to take. And then at each stage, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or whatever it is, there needs to be clearly defined metrics of what somebody's going to be accomplishing in that time frame.
Okay, so just kind of brainstorming and elaborating on this idea a little bit. Let's go through the 30, 60, 90 day on a high level.
Okay.
So for 30 days, what should be expected in the onboarding or suggested in the onboarding process?
So 30 days to me is all about kind of education, transfer of knowledge, getting someone to maybe learn about some products, maybe in a marketing role, learn what tools you have. It's ways of actually maybe sitting with people and working on a project with somebody. It's really just kind of getting them comfortable in the knowledge so they can create their own sort of talk track when they're talking to a customer. They understand the value proposition, that they know the tools, they know what resources are available to them. So 30 days is really about sort of knowledge.
Okay.
And then when I turn to 60 days is really when I start saying practice. So, and practice has got to be a component of, you've got to give people the ability to fail almost, and because they learn from that.
Right.
So what are those practices that you put in place that, again, you should have a coach or a mentor, as you mentioned earlier. I should say that in the first 30 days, I would want somebody to sit down with their manager, and I'd want them to personalize their journey, what their journey is going to be for onboarding.
Wow. So
defining and also define what the role of that mentor or manager is going to be. Some situations it's best to have two, a mentor, and then the mentor and the manager can be the same. It depends on kind of what the relationship you want, because you want someone to feel comfortable, and maybe they won't share some things with their manager that they would with a mentor. So do that. And I don't necessarily think the mentor should be someone who's, especially like in a sales role, should be like a really, really high performer. It's somebody who, because a high performer generally won't take the time to invest in it properly.
Because they got their well-oiled machine and they just got this process going. Right.
And it's, I don't have time.
Right.
So 60 days practice. You want to have some things like proof points. You want to actually see what they've done. So whether there's tests that they need to take around product knowledge, certifications, doing their first sales call, doing a ride along with the salesperson,
really
working on a marketing project with somebody as a partner, those types of things of practice.
Okay, so, and then moving into the 90-day, the long term, which is a little more than 3 months because it's 90 working days.
Yeah.
So this is where we should really start to see some return on
Absolutely.
our investment of new candidates.
Right.
So what do you see as big pieces in the 90 days?
So 90 days is like they could actually do more proof points. They could, they're going to be held to a higher expectation.
Right.
And again, everything needs to be aligned with an expectation. So we need to make sure that we define what that is so they know where they're going to at each point.
Well, I think it brings back to what you said in the first 30 days, having that alignment with the manager and understanding that it's customized to the individual because each person is different, each person has a different level of experience, but also a way of working and achieving success.
Yeah.
After going through this 30 to 60, 90-day plan, what do you think is the key takeaways of the onboarding process?
I think one, personalization. Make sure that the person feels like this isn't just something that they're going through with everybody else. So it's really personalized to their requirement. That there is a mentor and a manager defined. That there is a variation in what it is. It's not just sort of reading PowerPoints or sitting in a classroom, that there's different things that they need to do. Make it exciting. It needs to be fun and exciting. And level set expectations, making sure people are clear on the expectations that of what they're going to be going through each month.
Okay, that's very helpful. I think we've kind of covered a lot of high level in the recruiting and onboarding process. I will say we'd love for feedback and just engagement in these videos as we're figuring out this process and what you guys want to hear about, specifically when it pertains to recruiting and onboarding. If any of you guys as viewers have feedback or best practices that you'd love to give us and give the other viewers as well that are going to continue to view this video, comment in the comment options below. Also, as we're building out this LinkedIn Live practice and strategy, we'd love to hear additional topics that you guys want us to discuss or dive in deeper on. In the sales and marketing category, we're Marketing Eye discussing marketing practices. Robert's got sales and sales and marketing alignment is such a big deal to a company's success. So we'd love to hear any specific niche topics that you would like us to develop. But other than that, we appreciate your time. And you are able to ask us any questions. Feedback is highly encouraged.
And we hope to see you again.
Yeah, so thank you for tuning in.